Welcome to DeFi Expectations. Today we have on 0xRambler from the WallstreetBets Classic community. How you doing today, 0xRambler?
Very well, thank you. How about you?
Fantastic. I'm just excited to talk about this project. Just a note to the community listening in, I am also a member of WallstreetBets Classic, so obviously I am biased, but I wanted to bring on 0xRambler, one of the top classic devs of the community, to talk about what makes this project unique, what makes it special, and why we think more people should join it. So we'll just go ahead and dive right in, and I'll go ahead and start off by asking if you can tell me a little bit about yourself,
Yeah,
0xRambler,
sure.
and what brought you into WallstreetBets Classic.
So I've been in crypto myself now since 2020. Just basically caught the end of DeFi summer pretty much. So like I was in around the end of the end or mid-September. Um, and basically for me, my experience was one where I had a lot of luck at the very beginning. I'd managed to kind of get into Uniswap and get their airdrop, which pretty much set me up right away. And then I managed to kind of, I don't know, just through luck, well, what I thought was skill originally, um, I kind of multiplied my portfolio quite quickly. And it got me into 2021 then basically, to catch most of the legs up there. And I'd managed to make quite a decent amount of connections between people who are relatively well known in the industry quite early on. So yeah, I had a very lucky start basically to it, but that kind of started to fall apart or pull apart a little bit by May 2021 when we had that 30% in a day crash or whatever it was. And then the kind of the rose tinted glasses started to come off a little bit, and I was like, okay, maybe I don't know this this industry, or maybe I'm not naturally a pro. Yeah, so kind of at that point, I had actually been working as well with a couple of projects at this point, because when I discovered crypto originally, for me it was like, okay, this is the piece of technology that's going to, even the playing field, that's going to decentralize all aspects of, value transfer, and even just activating anybody's personal value chains, whether they have it, regardless of location or background or social background or anything else that tends to interrupt a person's ability to elevate their own quality of life. So basically, when I had gotten into crypto at first, I was, now I know I was very naive to the beginnings of it, but yeah, it was for me, it was an experience. It was a strange one, like, because it took up all my time. It took up all of my attention, all of my effort. I just wanted to go 100% in. Um, yeah, and it's for the first year, maybe and a half, that was a fantastic experience. And then kind of obviously coming towards the end of the cycle, I realized that I knew even less again than I thought I knew. Which, kind of it I obviously had quite a heavy pullback in my portfolio, and I'd had some relatively negative experience as well with some bad actors within the industry. Obviously, the same as anybody else that has been investing in this industry, I've been rugged more oftentimes than I can count. But when it comes to, working in it, I really thought that I'd found a very good group of authentic people that were, wanted to give me a platform to grow and develop. And then it had kind of become obvious by the end of 2021 that I was more actually working with a group of people that were grifters and were highly organized to what they were doing. So, as soon as I was in that situation and kind of realized what these people were about and how they were operating, I'd left immediately. And yeah, kind of since then I've been working on my own between trading, between kind of trying to find some good communities to get involved with, whether it's kind of helping at a community level or helping at an advisory or core level in a project. But yeah, for me, coming across WSBC, I was brought into it actually initially through, well, a friend of mine had made me aware that KJ Korean Jew was quite heavily involved in this project at the very beginning. So that kind of made me take a bit of a look in. But when I had kind of come to the community, one of the very, very first things that struck me immediately about it was just that there was an authenticity and a passion and an intensity that was there that I hadn't actually experienced in the 3 years previous that I had been in crypto. So I couldn't leave it. I was like, okay, this is one of the first things that feels really, really, really right. And then given the fact that the conditions for the actual project itself were kind of in, as much as some people might look at them and say, you're fighting an uphill, it's an uphill battle from there, and it's one that likely in many cases wouldn't succeed. But I think that, there's such passion within the community and within the people that have decided to step up. I feel obligated to see it become something special now.
So you're saying that you were not one of the founding members then?
No, no, no. I wasn't one of the founding members. So
Gotcha.
when I had actually gotten in, the founding member was already gone. As I'm sure that actually Fry has written an article about this to kind of inform people on the history and the lore behind WSBC. But when I had gotten in, it was already in the hands of the community at that stage.
Gotcha.
But unfortunately, this project that started out with particularly bad person, the abundance of them that there are in this industry, attempting to create a project, capitalize off the hype train of Wall Street bets at that time. And rather than, try and grow and develop a community and a good idea, he decided he was going to be greedy and try to rug this project, or well, not rug it, but bought it, hold a huge amount of the supply, and then dump that supply on everybody else.
Gotcha. Yeah, and when did that happen? The initial like WSB.
So it was it's just over a month ago now.
Okay.
I believe, since it launched. It was within the first 2 days. So the first day and the second day, the dev was basically offloading his stack into people,
Gotcha.
and then that had kind of amped up then by
So
the second day, and then
he just like hyped the
Sorry,
crap
go
out
ahead.
of it, and he just hyped the crap out of it and then just dipped out basically.
Yeah, basically ducked out. But as much as that would kill most projects, it seemed that, well, like, the early catalysts obviously that got a lot of people to come take a look in were the likes of KJ. Because this will add a lot of clout to a project. To have an influencer quite early on that wants to kind of stay and see a community grow. But the project itself was actually in a unique point at that place, because the supply was fully circulating at that stage, and the community had still stayed very motivated and very active in terms of, like, making people aware of the project, and then just throwing around some ideas as to what it could potentially become. So to kind of see that type of support and just community come together so early on, while the conditions, for the actual tokenomics side of things, were actually in a, I would view that as a uniquely good point. I know that some people might view it, well, you have no team tokens. How are you going to build a project? But, very, very early on, people within the community started to step up and fund it, themselves. Originally we got a website up there, and then within about 2 to 3 days, we'd had an updated version of the website again that was put in. All of this paid out of the pocket of community members that wanted to donate and wanted to contribute to see the success of the project. And then we had done quite a bit of early marketing as well, like between just to get as much exposure, obviously, and as early as possible, to kind of grow the community and strengthen the community as much as we could. But it was just it felt very, very natural, very, very right, and kind of like a situation that well, for me personally, I've never come across it in such a natural way, as in, while there are quite a lot of close-knit communities and organizations in crypto, a lot of them have, maybe that they have bonded through NFTs, through the art, or kind of a number of other kind of things. But this was a very it was a very natural kind of like beginning, and it happened in such a positive way. And I think that the kind of, you can't recreate conditions like how this project arose, or rose from the flames or from the ashes. But so as in, that's something that to me is very, very powerful, especially if you can if you have something like this happen to a project, and then that people come together to rise above. And it's very, very refreshing, as in, for me at least, they're like are quite early on in crypto. As I'd said, I was very, very naive when I'd gone into it first. I thought, I was like, this place is amazing. Everybody is sharing alpha, they're sharing projects, they're sharing information, and you don't really realize that a lot of the time they're, at the beginning, at least in my case, I didn't realize that it was people just shilling the bag, or maybe even getting paid, to talk about a particular project, or
Right.
any number of the unfair and negative things that you see people get up to in this industry.
It sounds like you had a pretty similar experience to me, especially
Yeah.
coming in
What was your experience?
pretty much everything you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's the
I-
standard, to be
like
honest.
like your
You know?
your story is probably my story.
Yeah, I helped introduce
I
Robin to crypto, and he had kind of a rough go getting started, and so did I. I was rugged a few times by different projects, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a
yeah.
journey.
Ones that we were working
But
with
that's
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. But that's the thing. It's like, for me as well, like personally, like I am a privacy maxi, like, as in, and I'm a big XMR, like I'm an Aero supporter. And I fully, like, one of the things that really attracted me even as well to crypto and to the technology was the capacity to be able to kind of like still, to develop yourself or grow yourself under a pseudonym, or not have to kind of dox yourself, like, to be able to provide value to a particular, to a social group or whatever else.
I love that too, because it doesn't matter like who you are specifically or what your background is. It's just that you're qualified
Yeah.
and you're
What
capable of doing the job. It's a meritocracy.
Exactly. It's what you can bring to the table, and to be honest, at the end of the day, that's what should be important anyway. As in, like, and I feel that in WSBC community, the sort of idea of a meritocracy, of a tiered, like, because obviously with any project, like even community run project, there has to be people that decide to take the reins. There has to be people that decide that they're going to fulfill certain roles. Like, and obviously like for me, like, and I believe that you would be on a similar page to that as well, Fry, that one of the most important things to protect within WSBC as it has formed is that, early, that community involvement from the ground up, that community, the ability for people to progress and grow and develop themselves based on their merit, based on the actual value that they provide, not the size of their wallet, not the size of their influencer following or anything else, just purely value, which is what the technology is about anyway, as in, we've got this fantastic piece of, a feat of engineering that allows people to connect and transfer value, and activate different types of value chains that never possibly could have been done before with other pieces of technology. And we're all, utilizing it to basically PvP and fight for the bag. Like, it seems like that everybody has gotten their their motives mixed as to what's possible kind of here. And like, I know that a lot of the industry is this way, and that most people feel that we can't change it because since it's the done thing, you got to play the game, as in, if you want to win. But I really, really think that with WSBC, that there's a capacity there to show people that there are alternatives possible, that there are, like, kind of, that we can utilize this technology in the way that it's supposed to be utilized to actually help elevate communities of people, rather than just individuals fighting each other to try and get whatever little liquidity is within a market at any one time.
Right, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about WSBC's mission, because not everyone listening knows specifically about that. So if you
Yeah.
could elaborate
So
a bit on that. A part of it I know is educating members on safe crypto practices, and also empowering members to be able to launch their own crypto projects. But if you could elaborate on that.
yeah, so like, in that scenario, like for me, like obviously like WSBC at its root is, you know, community directed. Like obviously there are core community members that have been stepping up, providing time and resource and skills that maybe not everybody within the community have. But the way that I view it is, you know, the direction that's within my mind, it's just guide like more like guideline contributions to see how they gel with the consensus. And if the consensus like that, then you know I can use my skill set and my knowledge to help realize those ideas. But if people don't want to go my way with it either, I'm still here from, you know, from the start until the end. I'm still here to see something fantastic get built. So like basically, you know, the way that I kind of view it is like in my vision for WSBC, at least in the short term, is with, you know, for one, for us to transition to being a DAO as soon as you know, realistically possible and feasible to actually introduce. Like obviously you have to be quite careful with introducing structures like these quite early, because you're at a phase of, you know, that's important to develop a strong foundational level. And if there is, you know, too much early kind of governance, like I said, obviously you want full community input at all times, but if there are kind of governance proposals being thrown around for everything, then it's very hard to get anything to be accomplished. But you know, my vision of what I'm going to say here, at least, you know, is not necessarily what is going to happen for WSBC. That'll be something that will be entirely decided by the community. But in my head, what I see and what I kind of get excited about is the potential to combine the three separate areas that we've kind of been working on for now, of having a highly educational and accessible space for educators and learners alike, to be able to either provide content, you know, or provide education, provide knowledge, provide any sort of information that they think could be beneficial to helping a person that's in this industry. Not necessarily only even as well information that's designed to help them navigate markets better or crypto projects better, but even, you know, to if you need somebody to talk to, or you just need to bounce you know, an idea off somebody, or if you've got a bit of, you know, if you've got a bit of shit going on in your life, like, and you just want to vent, you know, or even if the market is kind of getting the better of you, because again, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So, you know, there's an awful lot of, like, it can be very difficult to get into a healthy flow within crypto. And it also can be very difficult, you know, with the amount of information, with the amount of courses that people sell, with the amount of groups that there are, and with the amount of people kind of giving different styles of TA and FA and everything else. It can be very difficult to know where to begin. But the one conclusion that everybody eventually comes to, if they don't wipe out, is that they have to be organized, they have to be regimented, you know, they have to have a very clear-cut idea of how they, you know, if they're a trader, they have to have a very clear-cut idea of what their strategy is. If they're an investor, they have to have a very clear-cut method as to how they pursue their fundamental analysis and how they do their research and due diligence. You know, so it's what I envision the Discord being is a place, you know, is an ecosystem, like its own WallstreetBets Classic city, you know, as in where you can kind of go to just communicate and chat away with people that you know and have befriended, or whether you want to go there and kind of improve your understanding of crypto and blockchain fundamentals and technical sides. Or if you want to go and improve your ability to participate within the market as a trader or as an investor, or anything else, you know, as in one of the, like, while the Discord is still developing quite a lot at the moment, you know, there's a lot of like very extremely valuable information in there now, you know, including kind of some guides and articles on how to avoid kind of falling into potential rugs, you know, how to understand kind of things like liquidity and tokenomics, how to use a DeFi wallet, you know, the differences between utilizing centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges, and, you know, why something like liquidity is so much more important on a decentralized exchange than it isn't necessarily in classical markets or on CEXs where you have order books. But yeah, like, so what I see happening is a combination of the Discord aspect of it, the governance DAO proposal, and then also the most recent partnership that we've actually just announced between WSBC and Viral Snipe app. So this is a tool that you had touched on this briefly there as well, Fry, but a token creation tool that allows users to create their own ERC20 token or their own token on the Binance Smart Chain. Create the token, including its structure, its amount, its ticker, and everything else, and deploy the contract and add liquidity all with one click. But the thing that makes this tool quite unique, in terms of its own value proposition here in this, is it also comes with a an ability to curate low latency social media feeds or Twitter feeds. So if you see a scenario where there's a potential to capitalize or to begin a trend, you actually have a capacity to set up and prepare yourself these low latency feeds of influencer feeds to then perhaps create a token and capitalize on a hype or a particular trend at that time. But I think that with the combination of the token creation tool, a governance DAO structure, and a highly educational, highly accessible community oriented Discord, that we are creating an ecosystem very, very early on that has the potential to help not only beginners within this industry, but all class of participants from beginner to advanced, from individual to company.
With all that said, what kind of financial value is that going to add to a project like this? Because I mean, one of the things about meme coins, of course, is that on average they have basically no purpose except to be a meme.
Yeah,
and that's what this started out as. So that kind of like, for me, that's almost a two-part question. So like, having the fact that the original WSBC was a rug, do you think it's like a wise option to create a secondary version of that and then try and hype up what might already have a bad name?
Yeah, I fully agree with you there with those points. So like, for the way that I view this now, like, and obviously again, we haven't actually implemented, like, while we do have the tools are like, while this tool is actually built, and it's actually close to going through testing. Personally, before anything like that is ever introduced into WSBC, I want to make sure that it aligns with, me, like, personally, I want to make sure that it aligns with the community values, like with what the majority want within the community, and that obviously that the most important thing to protect are the qualities that made WSBC kind of special in the first place, which was a community of people that had come together to develop a project and an idea, and that arose out of a bad person doing a bad thing. And obviously as well, we don't want to become a haven for scammers or ruggers to actually have a new place that they can go to deploy these projects that likely will end up rugging or not have a point of focus on them. So for me, I want to kind of continue to have discussions with the community and with some of the people that are helping us to eventually integrate this tool, like, that will actually put in guardrails per se, as in something that there are certain requirements to the types of contracts that can be created. But not only on top of that as well, we would gate a certain entry and access to the tool to make sure that it's not just something that it can be that it can start spamming out, contracts, and that you have it become this sort of thing that it's a very easy, cheap tool for ruggers to come and capitalize on. So like, as in, while we do while there are big negatives that can come along with integrating a tool of this nature, I do think that the community attitudes and the community desire, to see this become something good will play the biggest role in that integration. So like, obviously nothing gets integrated on my call, or nothing gets integrated on any individual's call within here. We all will kind of decide this collectively together as a community. Like, ideally, to be honest, in my mind, I would like to see the DAO structure implemented before the token creation tool comes out, so at least that we can actually get stuff that is, like, because these are quite big decisions to make. So you want to make sure that you do have enough of the community on board before you do start to make these directions. But in terms of, yeah, like what you were saying of the potential for this tool to, like, with great power comes great responsibility, so it's, with the tool of this nature, we have the capacity to make pretty much any community member their own developer, their own Web3 developer, which, brings with it obviously the host of issues of having potentially attracted ruggers, but not only attracting ruggers, with allowing people that may not be competent to create projects to launch their own projects.
That's what I was just thinking too, is like not even people who are bad actors, but people who are stupid actors, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's what makes
that's
WSBC work so well as an educational platform, because you're educating people at the same time as you're giving them the tools to launch their own products. So hopefully that empowers them to make the right decisions with them a little better.
So this is probably what you guys mean when you say like everyone is a dev, like the potential essentially for everyone to be one. That's cool.
Yeah, well, you see, it originally was just, kind of like the meme factor that had started with, like, as in we'd kicked our own dev out, now we're all the dev. So it's it kind of started along that way, and then, through basically the stars aligning, we were lucky enough to kind of get access to utility that allows people within the community to become their own dev. And the way that I kind of, since this had come together in such a natural way, without, in a surprisingly natural way, we want to obviously make sure that everybody that's within the community is utilizing this tool in the right way, and that they are actually educated on the the responsibility that you have if you're actually going to launch a smart contract with the intention of people investing in that. Then you have an obligation to those people, like, you don't have an obligation just to make money. So for me personally, before this tool gets implemented, I want to see kind of like, well, like, obviously it will be community decided at that point, but I ideally would like to see a few guardrails that are put in place for what can be created and how those contracts come together.
And have you ever seen like a business model like this, kind of like a project birthed from a rug, succeed afterwards? Or is this what you're hoping will be kind of the first time that this happens?
Well, I believe that there are quite a few projects that have had, somewhat similar experiences, like, at the beginning, that they've had a developer that maybe tried to duck out quite early, and then the community wanted to take the project. But, I don't think I've ever seen one that has kind of the level of motivation and the just level of really authentic community of good people, as in, like, the one thing that I'm seeing in abundance in our Telegram and in our Discord is good people, people who are very, very genuine, who really want to provide, even if they don't have a high, skill set in Web3 related skills, they still want to provide value somehow and somewhere, like, whether that's through, providing tweets and rating on Twitter, or whether that's just through being supportive on voice chats and within the community itself, or whether if they have the ability to answer a question for somebody that comes into the community. It's very, very common that you'll see somebody who, hasn't necessarily been a core contributor or decided to take on moderating responsibilities, but, as in, it just seems like that there's an air of positivity that's within this community that's extremely refreshing. And it's as I've touched on this a little bit with Fry before, but, part of the reason as well, like, why I am so motivated to really nurture an idea of this nature and a community like this, into to see it grow into the potential that it could be. It's because I really do feel that, well, like, obviously our industry is full of scams and full of bad actors, but, as in, it's only getting easier and easier to scam people with the advent of AI, and the kind of, with ChatGPT and these other tools coming around now. It's only easier and easier for people to give the illusion that maybe they're a 5 to 10 man team or something like that, when it's realistically just one teenager in his bedroom that has used that has deployed a website, and then that has used some tools to deploy a contract, and and then maybe they get one of an early community member, somebody who comes into their Telegram to moderate and claim to be on the team. So there's like, I find that there already is enough inauthenticity within this industry, but I feel like that we're on the edge of actually that going into overdrive. So like on any sort of capacity, or if anything that appears to be, special and real, that it's that we kind of have an obligation to nurture that as much as possible and see where it can possibly lead to.
I think it's pretty fascinating how the DAO structure works and how well it's establishes like a meritocracy, because I would think with a project like WSBC where you have catchphrases like everyone's a dev, you would think that would be potentially problematic with everyone being a dev, because is everyone really qualified to be a dev? But when I go to WSBC, when I check out the community, the Telegrams, the Discord, there's a lot of positivity. There's a lot of really good conversation going. Even when we disagree about things, there's real discussions happening. It's just a really exciting and interesting community.
Yeah, it really is. Like, because like obviously we're a range of people from a range of different backgrounds, from all around the world. And we're all going to have our own, our own kind of tolerances. We're all going to have our own, idea for what crypto is or for what a project should be. But as in most other communities that I've come across, or most other kind of projects that I've come across, you tend to like there generally is a portion, a rather large portion that are unmoving in on certain things. But the one thing that I've seen in WSBC is just a community of people that try to understand each other as well, which is very interesting, because generally, again, in crypto, it's we're listening to an influencer, or whoever shouts the loudest, or whoever kind of gives the illusion of being the most informed. So it's something that I really do feel like that we've got a unique community, and that within itself, like as you saw as well, Fry, and that within the first week that we had been really amping up community involvement with getting social media engagement, we had BitBoy come and take a look in, and I know that kind of didn't exactly go swimmingly as most of his kind of engagements tend to go, but that was all the community. None of that were influencers. Nobody reached out to him. And this was still at a stage when we were a rogue project with no utility. We had one of the biggest influencers in the space turn his head and go, "Hey, what's this about, Mac?" So as in, there is something that's very, very unique, and something that's very, very special here, and other people can see it. It's what made me take a look in. It's what made me stay. It's what made me decide that I want to dedicate as much time and effort and resource to this as I possibly can, to hopefully see it become something lasting and special.
So WallstreetBets is known for the GameStop short squeeze. Can you kind of give us a little bit of background on that? Maybe refresh the story for anyone who hasn't heard it, and maybe tell me if there's a certain element of David versus Goliath to WSBC, if there's a nature of you guys to take on big giants in the industry that aren't used to falling.
Yeah, well, like for with WSB, Wall Street Bets, it originally, like, it's a Reddit forum that had gained notoriety for attempting to enact a short squeeze on a particularly big. So I think it was, I can't remember the original company that they were instigating the short squeeze on, but it actually made its way up as far as Citadel. Basically, this whole scenario, where a Reddit community had come together to, they had found out that there was a rather large short position that had been built up within GameStop stock, G&E stock. Like, naturally enough, as well, with it being a brick and mortar games business, games related business, it was disappearing. As in, like, everybody's buying their games online, everybody's shopping online now, or they're using Steam and other kind of tools. So it's GameStop is going, naturally would go the way Blockbuster and these other old technologies. But I think that they didn't really rely on for one, the sheer degeneracy of people on Reddit and in crypto as well. They didn't rely either as well that these people would feel such connection and passion to GME and to GameStop, because these were kids who'd grown up with this. They were going to the GameStop stores every weekend to buy games or to kind of to trade in games and that as well. So there's a nostalgic association that's there that made these people feel, look, we need to protect this. So they pretty much started out building shorts and building building long positions into GME stock to try and kind of put a squeeze onto. Yeah, I can't remember the business now, but they were a Citadel associated fund, and while obviously this would take a while, or it's very, very surprising that they managed to get anywhere, to be honest, at all. But it just picked up so much steam, and it became viral then at this stage that WSB were doing this, and that they were sticking it to the man, basically. And this is obviously something that the average Joe and everybody else can get behind, because we also often get stiffed by the man that at any opportunity that seems reasonable to be able to, it seems possible to be able to give it back to the man. Like, of course you're going to do it. But right. Yeah, so they actually they had built so many positions, and successfully managed to squeeze this fund, so much so that Citadel had to step in themselves and actually give them more capital, to prevent their short position that they'd be building from being liquidated. Because if they did, there was potentially a contagion risk, and this actually became more and more and more apparent the longer that this actually went on, and the longer that WSB community on Reddit continued to buy GME stock, and they had actually gotten to the point of where even Citadel potentially could have gone under. One of the biggest for like firms of the planet related to this that operates within markets. So at this point, then you had to have obviously government manipulation and regulation step in, and they stopped the trading of GME stock. They stopped the ability for Robinhood, for people who were purchasing GME stock through the Robinhood app, to be able to buy any more stock. The only thing that they could do was sell their stock. So basically, they had sided with with Citadel, allegedly because there was actually contagion risk that had built up. That was so much so that they actually could have even potentially instigated the recession.
Yeah, it was a pretty big event, and it was crazy when Robinhood decided to stop trading as well. I know a lot of people were really upset about that, and they made their excuses for it later why they did it. But yeah, it was market manipulation.
100% pure and simple. The same thing had happened with the London Metal Exchange as well. Last year they'd done it with, what was it, like with tin or something like that. I can't remember which particular one, but they had a situation as well, something similar, where they ended up pausing trading because of something that had gone against them. So like this is kind of part of, though, for me, the value that WSBC has as well. Like, it's like, while in the real world there's quite disparities between the haves and have-nots, in crypto, very, very, very much so there is too. And not only disparity between the haves and have-nots, but there's so much information asymmetry, and this information asymmetry ends up contributing so much to the wider population, like to normies' opinions of the actual industry as a whole, and generally as well, the people to get hit hardest by these information asymmetries and by these projects that are kind of maybe running and giving an illusion that they're far more capable than they are. They tend to go for the least informed investor, which is, and either somebody who's quite new into the industry, or somebody who really, really, really cannot afford to fall for the trick that you're pulling on them. So with WSBC community, it started out in that way as well. Like, it's we had a greedy developer that had decided he was going to launch a project off the back of another trend, and then attempt to kill that project at the expense of everybody else. But so with these beginnings to WSBC, and with the level of community that had come together, to try and see something come from this project, it really feels that we have the potential to be like, with our resources, we have so many people who are web developers, full stack developers, web3 developers, smart contract, graphic designers. We still have like quite a few influencers that are within the community and active. And then we have like a huge community of, like, we also as well have many projects as well, like people that are working on their own projects within the community, people who are content creators. It's like already very, very early on, a lot of very, very capable people came to take a look in, and they took a look in, they liked what they saw, and they stayed. And now they want to see something special we built. So for me, and I believe that a lot of people are within the community are also of this mindset, is that we're in a position to utilize, our beginnings and our collective skill sets to show people what is actually possible without having mega funding, without having, massive amounts of supply to be diluted over your own holders, basically. And show people that you can build special, something special, and you can make good ideas that do take full advantage of the protocols that we're using, because as in a protocol is only as good as the stuff that's on it. And if we continue to allow the worst people within the industry to really shape how everybody views it, then we're not going to have the potential that is still here at present. We're going to end up with something that's very, very restricted, that eventually, the best parts of it get choked out and die off because it's just too difficult for normies and other people to kind of get involved at that stage. So, it really, really feels that with our beginning and with our community and with our potential, that we have the capacity to show people that you can do a lot more with a lot less. And that you should do a lot more with a lot less, because the rewards, once you actually put in that effort and put in that footwork, there'll be much, much more, as in, like, right now, the way that I view this is, as much as this is taking, WSBC has taken a lot of my time, it's taken a lot of my resources and everything else. I can see just like every day more tangible value that's right in front of me, like whether that's through education or whether that's through a more tightly knit community of people who are highly, highly capable with fantastic ideas and connections and everything else themselves. But I feel that it's not a matter of if we can do it, it's a matter of when we can do it. And because within a month, we're only just over 3 weeks as a community running this project, but we've already accomplished so much. And I can't see that becoming any like it's already, we've accomplished more in 3 weeks than a lot of projects accomplish that are funded within 6 months to a year.
And how do you think that you'll be able to continue doing that, or how do you think we'll be able to continue doing that without a typical, dev wallet or typical funding?
To dilute the supply.
Means? Yeah, exactly.
So with the WSBC token, like, obviously it's all fully circulating. So we can't, we don't have team tokens, we don't have treasury tokens on that. We did very, very early on set aside a separate Ethereum treasury for people to donate money towards, marketing and anything additional that was decided the community wanted. But the biggest point of conversation and focus on the core community have been finding ways of utilizing the positive qualities of the fact that we have a token that only cannot inflate in supply. We obviously want to make that token as well a core part of the community, and a core part of like something that's highly integrated within the community. So some of the ideas that have been passed around. So in terms of like the DAO structure that we're hoping to implement, or that we will be implementing, we are intending on implementing a sort of governance structure that's a little bit different to what people might be used to. And it's being dubbed burn to vote. So, there's a lot of different things that are important in forming a DAO structure. For one that's appealing, two that's functional, and three, that's sustainable. And in order to do it, like a lot of projects, what they'll do is, that they, the size of your stack decides the size of your boat, which leads to its own centralization issues. Or, there could be the idea of one person, one vote, or, through something like an NFT or something like that. But again, these all come with their own kind of issues with it. But we had come up with this idea of burn to vote, which basically any proposal that we decide goes to a governance proposal. If you want to participate in it, your level of vote is related to the number of tokens that you burn. So if you are a whale and you really, really want to have a say kind of in the direction of a project, you got to put your money where your mouth is. Okay. And that after you make that vote, you will have burned some of the supply. So everybody benefits from it. So the whale gets to have their elevated opinion. The community now takes benefit from the fact that there's less circulating supply, which will have more positive impact on the market cap, and as well with thickening out the liquidity pool as well. But not only on top of that, like, so as in, again, like we will be deciding as a community how that implementation process will come. One thing that I was kind of considering, because like I still obviously fully believe that you don't want to go purely on token amounts, because again, purely on token amounts, even you don't know who's going to come into the community and decide that they want to hold and direct it. And even regardless of whether that whale is burning their tokens, you don't know how deep their pockets are. They may be able to buy equally as much more again, to get the same level of influence through the project. So some things that have also been knocking around was creating a tier system for token burns. So as in that if you want to be considered, a high weight vote, that you have to burn above a certain amount. If you want to be considered middleweight, another amount. If you want to be considered low, another amount. But it gives everybody the capacity to have a say within it, while at the same time deflating the WSBC supply, making the token more scarce, and helping with thickening out the liquidity pool and reducing the supply. So this is one idea that was kind of knocking about there.
I had a question about like Wall Street Bets originally too. Were you actually part of the Reddit community? Because I think I had heard that like basically the person who founded the original WSBC, or either WSB or WSB, was part of that community, or was a large part of that community.
Yeah.
It's like, but what does that mean exactly? If you say somebody was part of a community when there's like, 60,000 people part of it, it's like, so what was the origination of that?
So basically, WSB, the original Wall Street Bets, they had decided, so WSB Mod, one of the main moderators of the WSB forum, is that Jamie Rogozinski, I think his name is. He had decided, or he had been approached maybe by a team of people that wanted to launch a Wall Street Bets crypto token. And he had gotten behind this, as well as a number of other Wall Street Bets moderators. So like Wall Street Bets, since it had the GME situation happen, it became an extremely valuable brand. It's worth quite a lot of money. That Wall Street Bets mod has written a book about the whole situation. And there's quite a lot of value to the brand that's already there. So they wanted to, pull that across into cryptocurrency. So WSB Mod had arranged to set up a cryptocurrency with a group of other WSB Wall Street Bets moderators and crypto participants. But basically, the one of the team members. So at first, it's still a little bit unclear what had happened in this scenario, because some people have blamed somebody and others have blamed somebody else. But one of their moderators on Reddit, another guy named ZJZ, had believed that WSB Mod was dumping supply of the WSB token. So he decided that he was going to take Treasury, because he had control of multisig to be able to do this, and then just take it and start dumping it on the community. So they kind of like almost, tried to dump the whole supply on top of the community. Well, one or two of rogue mods seem to have done this. So while all this kind of rigmarole was happening, somebody decided that from that team, I'm not sure exactly which moderator it was, but it was another WallstreetBets moderator decided that they were going to separate and make WallstreetBets Classic. Yeah, and then this person had launched the token as well. They also had their and they had bought it to launch. So basically, they had a bunch of wallets that they'd had themselves to corner a large amount of the supply. And then once the market cap had gotten up around 200K, I believe it was, they started offloading their stack like just very, very heavily and just without any care for the chart or anybody in the community. And then they were basically non-existent within the community from that point. But with the fact that they didn't bother to moderate or control the chat at this point, it kind of formed the conditions to allow the community to brainstorm it a little bit and go, well, look, he's going to be out of tokens soon, and we're all still here. We don't have to sell. We know that the contract is renounced. We know that the keys to the liquidity pool are burned. We know that there's no team allocation. And we know that the contract as well is not a honeypot, and that there's nothing he can kind of do at this point. So let's just keep it going. And then a couple of core community members had contacted, I believe, had managed to get in touch with the dev, and they had, I believe that there was some sort of handover, like kind of on some parts of things, whether it was socials or something else. But don't quote me on that. I could be, I wasn't around at this stage. I had come in probably the day after that point.
So in the community, what is your role? Like, if you had to give yourself a role, like what level would you be in this community?
So, like, I really, really want it to be, a community where where it never kind of materializes, where there are kind of like classic hierarchical roles within it. Because like as in like the way that the role that I see myself having now is being the person who helps create a foundational structure, as in for everybody else to kind of start then pushing their ideas and pushing their plans and as in I want to kind of get it to a stage of where it can be self-sustained as a fully community run project, that we have different tools that are bringing in a revenue stream, to fund marketing and to fund the continued development of the project, and that we have a structure in place that allow the community to have fair input that is always respected. And the thing is, I since I have worked on quite a few different projects and areas within crypto, and plus just through being generally obsessed with it, I'll read up and try and get as clued in as I can on as many aspects of it as I can. I want to see, I think that, if the core community of ourselves that are contributing quite heavily now continue in what we're doing, of adding as much information and help into the Discord, in getting the community input to get some solid tools out there and utilities out there early on, then from that point onwards, people can kind of take it and do as they wish. Like I said, I will be in the community as long as this community exists, but I don't want to be considered a leader of this community, because it's not about that. And when it was about that, we've ended up having only nothing but negativity.
Yeah.
And for example, like with the developer himself, as in that was one person who was the leader, and they tried to kill the project. And then after that, we'd had, while I am grateful for KJ and Korean Jew, because he brought me into the community, he brought a lot of people into the community. I don't think it was ever a good idea for the community to consider, that we need people like specific influencers, or that we need kind of like obviously you need support of people that have a platform and an audience, but at the same time, you can't rely on those people to carry the project. You can't rely on those people to carry a price level or anything like that. So it's a case of, like, I think that any time that we start to put anybody up onto a pedestal, the only thing that suffers is the project. So we need to stop doing that. And like, I'm happy to take a lead at a temporary time, like temporarily, to kind of help get a focus and get a direction. And just to make sure that we kind of start to get things fulfilled. But me personally, I'm kind of like, in crypto at least, a jack of all trades, and I'm not an in-depth technical professional on any aspect of it. I know a lot about a lot of different subjects within it, and I'm quite good at seeing people that have value and connecting them with other people. So ideally, I'd like my role to be something like that, where I just help connect the right type of people that are already within this project with each other, and then help to actualize the ideas that come out of that.
Excellent. So 0xRambler, could you tell me a little bit about what's on the roadmap for WSBC next? Do you have any partnerships in mind or any planned objectives that come next for this community?
Yeah, well, we already have had an initial partnership with the Viral Snipe app. That was announced last week, and that's going to help us add some utility. But what we are looking to do, obviously being a community-based project, we want to kind of develop and grow as many of the value propositions in communities that have similar goals and similar intentions in mind for providing value propositions and tools and ideas that are designed to elevate the standard of the crypto industry, but not only the crypto industry, but provide actually fair, equal footing for people across every industry, really. Like anything that really has had negatives from centralization or monopolization or anything like that. So one thing that we have been discussing, again, like this hasn't really been relayed to the community just yet, because again, we have to obviously we have to do a bit of self-organization outside of these things. But one potential partnership that we have actually been discussing is with your project, DeFi Fry, Cheers Finance, which, to be honest, when you told me about it, I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly aligned with what WSBC beliefs are and intentions are. Like obviously, again, it will be decided fully by WSBC community and your own, whether they want to kind of pursue this route. But yeah, I think that the next partnership and the next kind of connection of community and idea is hopefully going to be with your project, Cheers Finance.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to discussing that more with the community. I guess I can start providing just a little bit of information about Cheers Finance for anyone who's not aware. Cheers Finance is really a disruptive product that's meant to disrupt the monopoly of Ticketmaster and Live Nation, which is what I think kind of makes it fit and align perfectly with WSBC's intentions. Because the same way the GameStop's short squeeze took down Wall Street, we're basically trying to take down this live entertainment ticketing behemoth that a lot of people aren't really happy with the way they manage their businesses. Their business ticket prices have gone up substantially. You don't really get any autonomy or control over the type of events that you have. They say they're for fans, but really it's not for fans. What's unique about Cheers Finance is we have a platform that basically allows users to come buy their ticket with USDC, and they receive an NFT concert ticket, which they're able to use to vote on the details of the event. Details such as who will be the performing artist, what venue will the event take place at, what merchandise will be for sale. Basically, all the details of the event are completely governed by the DAO. So it gives a level of autonomy and control over event management that's never happened before. Right now, we are in the midst of building our prototype. So we're trying to onboard a community to give it a try. Once it's developed, it should be developed in the coming weeks. But basically, it is a platform, a smart contract that will sell 500 tickets, 500 NFTs for $100 a piece, for a total event budget of $50,000. The smart contract will take 10% of that and put it into a treasury for Cheers Finance. That's for the DAO treasury, so that'd be $5,000. The other $45,000 that's been completely funded by the community will be used to fund the event. In governance proposals, which we'll likely do through Discord, possibly a community forum, will allow the members who hold NFTs to vote on the outcome of that event and what kind of event it will be. So it could be anything. It could be a live event. It could be a metaverse event. We could do hip hop. We could do electronic music. We could do whatever. We could even do a comedy show if we want to. But basically, what I'm hoping to do is to open this prototype of this project to WSBC members first, and allow them to try it out and see what they think of it. But I feel like Cheers is aligned with WSBC. I feel like our community will love it, and I'm really excited to work with you guys more and see what we can accomplish.
Yeah, I'm super excited as well. Like when you told me the idea, me as well. Like I'm a musician as well. I play guitar and piano, and I have performed in bands as well for not within the last 5 years, but previous to that, about 15 years. I was gigging quite regularly, and when you had told me about the idea, it had me thinking about like, wow, this also not only does it have the platform to create more, democratized and better prepared events that are kind of around, fan needs and community kind of wishes, to kind of for the types of events that they want to see. But it also has a capacity to help elevate performers themselves, and kind of give them access to platforms and shows, that they previously may not have been able to self-organize or perform, to that level. So I think that, it's a very, very interesting sort of method of opening up an industry that has really been riddled with monopolies, like the entertainment industry in general. Like there's always some kind of area that takes a hold on it, whether it's through the ticketing or whether it's through the management or production side of things as well. So I really, really like it, man. Like, and I believe as well that the WSBC community are going to be all for it. I can't wait till they actually hear about it.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. And Ticketmaster, Live Nation Entertainment, I was looking at their market cap the other day. It was just shy of $19 billion. So, there is a lot of potential for this project to grow. Cheers Finance, I mean, we're starting out with a small community. We're not, if you go to the Cheers Finance page, we've only got about 500 followers right now. So we're not huge yet, but there's a tremendous room for growth. If we even were to capitalize on 1% of Ticketmaster's, total dominance of the market, if we could even get a percentage of it, we would have a home run.
Mhm.
So
for sure.
it's really exciting. And we recently made some changes. We brought on a new developer, got some advice because we were going to release a token initially, but we kind of decided against the token, which is a good thing for WSBC, because if we're to partner in some way, we don't have a token that's competing with you guys. This just brings more value to WSBC, so that's a good thing.
And for me as well, like you can tell it from immediately. You could tell it with you in the community, Fry, as well, and just obviously talking with you here as well, that you're a person that wants to, that you want to see real ideas get realized. You want to see good ideas get realized, and actual proper value that's put in. And it takes a lot. There are so many people that come into crypto and they just want to attach a token onto everything. And even with kind of like WSBC, it's with it having started out as a meme coin, which doesn't really have utility, and there are kind of connotations that come along with that sort of label. But I think that with the tokenomics the way that they are, the fully circulating supply of WSBC, it puts us in a position, like obviously between partners and stuff like that, when we get partners involved with yourselves with Cheers Finance, it allows for a more kind of like natural ecosystem, or something that is more akin to a real system, a real world system, to kind of flourish out of that. It's the same as well with like Viral Sniper App. Like Viral Sniper App haven't released a token. They obviously are a token creation tool themselves, but as in there's just this belief obviously here that everything has to be attached to the token, and that the token in itself is a value proposition, and it's not. Like, as in, if anything, the token ends up being the worst part of the idea. But I think that with WSBC, we got put into a very, unique situation, that is only a positive one, in my opinion. And then having partnerships, very, very, utility-based partnerships and community-based partnerships, and just, ones that bring sound, tangible value propositions into a community is the way to go. Because, like, again, where crypto is so tribal, that it can be very, very hard for people to form actually, real partnerships, for one thing, that ones at least that aren't only in lip service or name only. So, we should be aiming to help elevate each other and to elevate the industry. And I think that with the directions and the methods that that we're going about it in WSBC, and you're going about it in Cheers Finance, and Viral Snipe App are going about it as well. These are the way that it needs to go. As in this is, we need to connect. We need to build, from what's here. We don't need to attack each other. We don't need to dump on each other. We don't need to, as kind of what had started happening early on with the WSB coins as well. There was, friction between WSBC community and the Wall Street Baby community, and our community, like, obviously as well in Wall Street Baby, they had their community members that were being sensible about this as well. But we were predominantly of the attitude in WSBC, that you don't need to play those games, and since we're not about that from the get-go, we don't need to sink to that level at any point. So it's I think that there's a natural sort of economy that's kind of like springing up here. Like, there's like naturally a DAO sort of sprung up, and it seems that naturally an ecosystem is also springing up out of it. And as I kind of discussed with you myself as well, Fry, on a voice call yesterday, when we were speaking about Cheers, there was another idea for a project that I personally wanted to kind of start working on over the last couple of years, but didn't really have the time or the resource or the community or the anything to really actualize it. But it also seems like another idea which would kind of potentially benefit from WSBC's community, WSBC's goals and intentions, and Cheers Finance's goals and intentions as well. So it's just such a refreshing and nice feeling to come in, in the WSBC community, because it really feels that if you've got value, if you've got, regardless of whether that's another project or something like that, that shouldn't prevent us from helping somebody. I know that we obviously want that we want number go up, and we want market cap go up, and we want a nice secure price point kind of within things. But as in, all of that stuff comes when there's sound value propositions there, and it kind of, with the focus and the direction that WSBC is taking, of forming strategic partnerships and partnerships on a human level, and relationships on a human level. It really seems that, we're reaping the benefits of doing the right thing. That's kind of how I'm seeing it so far.
I like that. And another thing someone said that I thought, Cap, really crystallizes the value, is they said, from meme coin to movement. And I just think that's so accurate, because it did start out very much as the selling point was, it's a meme coin, it might go up like Pepe, let's buy it, and when I first got involved, that's all I was really seeing. But I stayed. What made me stay was the community, the plans that that WallstreetBets has for community education, crypto education, and being able to enable founders to create their own projects. It's really an exciting project to be involved in, and there's such a feeling of abundance versus scarcity. Scarcity mindset, people are protective of their secrets, no one wants to work together, there's distrust, there's competition. But what I see a lot of in Web3 and decentralized finance is people just working together, and trying to pool their resources to create something that's better than either one of them could have accomplished by themselves. And I think that's just such a wonderful thing.
Yeah, 100%. So we have this saying in Ireland, it's like rising tides raise all ships. As in, we should be aiming to kind of to be the thing that assists to kind of elevate everybody. Because again, one of the biggest things that had really made me so motivated to kind of like to really dive into this as well is actually it's partly obviously the excitement and the feeling of coming across something that seems legitimately authentic, but also the fact that like I think you know we've allowed so many negative actors and bad actors to shape how normies and how governments and everybody else view this industry. That I don't think that many people are aware of just how much we stand to lose and what we can lose, what we are likely to lose. I think that I've mentioned this to you before as well, Fry, I think. But I think that there's this kind of attitude that, like while there may be scams and there may be, kind of incompetency and everything else, all over the industry, it's a protocol and it has tangible value. So naturally, the same thing that happened with the internet will happen with this. The internet, the early internet had the .com bubble and it had, endless scams and, it was a scammer's haven kind of as is basically all new technology, revolutionary technology specifically. Even cars were, it was bootleggers were the first people to really adopt cars,
Right.
So it's a case with, people have, I think that too many people here have this attitude that, oh, it's fine. There'll eventually be enough development. There'll eventually be enough growth that the industry will mature and there'll be no place for the scammers within it. But I don't agree with that. Like, as in, I think that if the internet was to have been relaunched again in 2020 or 2023, it would look absolutely nothing like the internet that we have now. And you can see, like, as in, governments are doing everything within their power to kind of to radically change the internet into something that's a far less free and open kind of protocol. So obviously they're doing these things with blockchain, they're doing these things with DeFi, with crypto, with self-custody. The EU have introduced some like seriously draconian financial laws over the last couple of months. The US have been, directly attacking crypto through their Operation Choke Point, and then there's, so this is the thing, is like, while they may not be able to take it down, because like, I think again, this is another thing that we hide behind here in the industry, where it's like, oh, well, it's a decentralized protocol. What are they going to do? Even if they take down the front end, I can access it through a smart contract or whatever else. But yeah, you can do that, but a normie can't do that. And a normie isn't going to spend, whatever amount of time, it takes to go and learn how to do that if they don't see a value proposition there first, which they won't, because if governments and if bad actors are shaping the narrative, then it looks like trash.
Right.
So we have an obligation. We have an obligation as an industry. We have an obligation as participants here that see something more to show that there is more. Because right now, what's happening is they're only seeing the bad stuff.
Yeah, and that is definitely problematic. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I think at this point I'm out of questions. Robin, do you have any more?
Nope, that's it for me.
Excellent. Then I guess we can go ahead and wrap. 0xRambler, would you like to share how our audience can get in touch with you and WSBC?
Yeah, perfect. So if you want to follow our Twitter is at the WSB Classic. And then if you want to kind of, so we also have our Discord as well. I'll send you on the links for the Discord. You have the links for the Discord and the Telegram anyway. And hopefully that we can have them shared with the podcast as well itself. For me, my Twitter page is 0xRambler, just 0xRambler. Yeah, you can get in touch with me there. Yeah, I'm a very, very approachable person as well. Sure, like Fry knows, I'll chat away to anybody. Part of the reason why my name is Rambler. I do it a lot.
Yeah, I'm going and following you right now. Looks like you're already following me.
I already started today. I followed you today. I got you followed as well on the WSBC page as well.
Awesome.
I had to make sure that we have one of our new and I expect to see you in the community as well, Cryptopher Robin. I've seen you in the Discord. I see your username up in there. Yes, you better drop in, man.
Will do.
As well to do this. And thank you very much for having me on. And again, just one thing that I do also want to kind of say again towards the end is, like, while I am here representing WSBC in this capacity right now, I'm not the voice of WSBC. I'm not, a team member. I'm not, as in, I'm a community member. I'm a community member that has stepped up to provide the value that I can provide. You know, there are many people that are doing it as well. Like Fry, you're doing it yourself as well. Like you provided so much valuable content already between the Medium articles that have explained the partnerships, that have explained some you know, parts of cryptocurrency and blockchain in general as well, and the lore and the history of, you know, what we started as and what we've become. You know, there's so many people that are providing so many useful aspects that are going to help us become, I think, a crypto household name. But yeah, it's thank you so much for having me on, and thank you so much, Fry, and everybody else from the WSBC community as well that works so hard, because we all see a good thing.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that, and I completely agree. But yeah, thanks for coming on again. We'll hopefully have you on again soon.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that, man. Hopefully next time I'll be it'll be a bit more natural for me. As it was
No
the first
problem. You
time
did
that I've done
great.
something like this. Good. Yeah, that's the first time I've done something like this with a you know, in a community representing sort of role. Been on podcasts before, but just kind of expressing opinion, which it's a little bit easier for me. But you know, with with something like this, the nerves start to kick in a little bit.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
But it's been fun.
Awesome.
right.
You take care.
Have a good one,
Okay,
you
lads.
guys.
Thanks a million.
Bye.
Yeah, you too, Christopher, as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.